Today, although automation has replaced many workers in the Rouge plant, the same underlying principles remain. Once something as complicated as an automobile could be mass-produced, anything could be mass-produced, giving more people access to more goods. Mass production feeds mass consumption, and mass consumption feeds mass production. The standard of living in the United States skyrocketed over the first half of the century.
If you compare the way the American style of technology allocated wealth and poverty in the United States until about 1970, it's about as good as any other system that's ever been around in history. A very substantial number of Americans had access to pretty darn impressive standard of living, as we usually call it. That's the great payoff of the Ford system.
The Ford system was copied around the world. In Germany, factories produced the Volkswagen, the people's car. It surpassed the Model T as the best-selling car in history. But Ford's legacy wasn't just mass production and mass consumption. It was a way of organizing the world to solve problems, with control as the underlying principle.
Control is central to the design of most systems, indeed to design itself, because broadly stated, we regard good design or good system as one which reduces or eliminates uncertainty. But because of the way we think of human beings, we regard them as an uncertainty. So it follows that we are concerned about controlling behavior in the whole system.
This is an air transportation system, an airport. The Pittsburgh airport is the newest in the world. It was built specifically as a hub airport. 2/3 of the passengers are connecting to another destination. Pittsburgh wants to become the River Rouge of airports, the busiest hub on the American eastern seaboard. That means efficiency, hence control in every operation. The airport has the largest baggage handling system in the world, with 6 miles of conveyor belts. The key to the system is the bar-coded luggage tag. "13 lasers read each tag and route it to the proper conveyor. The system is almost fully automated. No human intervention here. Henry would have loved that. But luggage is only a byproduct of the main material processed through the system: people. The airport is designed to make that happen. Straight lines connect the parking lot to the ticketing area, commuter building, main terminal, and gates. The goal is to get passengers from parking lot to gate in 22 minutes.
The building is not a dynamic system, it's not a machine, but it's nonetheless a system. A system does not require moving parts. One lays out a highway. It's not, without vehicles on it. There's no moving parts in the highway system, but it still has an architecture and there are components that have been assembled in certain ways to respond to certain needs.
Technologies along the way motivate the journey. The people mover. It can shuttle over 13,000 people an hour. Escalators. Moving walkways.
The airport is one of the most highly choreographed spatial sequences that we experience. The whole sequence of arrival and departure from the gates, going out to the gates, going down to get your luggage, is so highly programmed spatially that if you want to go in the opposite direction, it's virtually impossible. It's so controlled and so unobtrusive that you don't even know you're being controlled.
Other more subtle technologies guide traffic flow. The pattern of the carpeting, the direction of the lighting, even the layout of the tiling.
Since the scientific revolution, there's that whole notion of the mastery over nature. Again, I think what's happening is that you have the material parts of nature being mastered by these mechanical engineers, being controlled. I think almost without thinking, there's this sense that people are also a part of nature. There is ultimately a mastery over people that becomes part of the mentality of building these marvelous technical systems.
This here, Priority Gold. This is Jewel. Let me just make sure those flights are available.
The mastery over people is applied to every kind of work, not just manual work. This US Air reservation office handles 18,000 calls a day. Each one is strictly controlled, standard procedure at all successful airlines. Agents are assigned to different categories of calls: individual customers, corporate accounts, group sales. The goal is to pick up 75% of the calls within 20 seconds.
A little bit better. I've got an 11:20 through Washington that would have you into Tampa at 4:01.
There's a central control room in true Taylorist fashion. If the goal isn't met, a coordinator shifts agents from one category to another. Supervisors also listen in on the agent's calls. Agents know they're monitored. They just don't know when. Supervisors are looking for the ideal cell.
What's so amazing is that the thing that they're trying to standardize is not parts on an automobile. This is a conversation. Someone has first studied what the good reservation clerk does and broken down into a series of steps. And the would you like the 10 o'clock or the 4 o'clock is a close. And sometimes they're measured that they have to make at least 3 closes in the conversation.
And that would get it to Tampa at 1:23. Is that too early? Okay.
Systems of all kinds force people to conform. Is it a bad thing? Well, the answer is no to a large degree, and if it's carried to an extreme, it probably is.
Henry Ford carried his system to an extreme, and it presented him with an industrial problem. Thousands of workers were quitting. The year the assembly line was completed, the average worker quit after only 3 months. So Ford announced he was raising workers' wages from $2.40 a day to $5 a day. It made him an industrial hero. But workers were only eligible for the increase if they submitted to inspection about the most intimate details of their personal lives. Members of the newly created Ford Sociological Department checked workers' records and homes for debt, drinking habits, cleanliness, even sexual relations. The department also held classes for the immigrant workforce, teaching them English and basic living skills. Ford was trying to make his workforce as uniform as the parts they handled.